Welcome back to the Professional Lovers
channel.
I'm Al.
I'm Patty, and we are the Professional Lovers.
Lovers.
And look at us doing a recap right
On
after the
time.
episode.
Yay, us.
So this week was a good week, and we have a lot to talk about. If you're just joining us for the first time, we like talking about relationship issues through the lens or the perspective of Married at First Sight. So if you're a Married at First Sight fan, we are for the issues that come out as the couples try to integrate their lives and build a marriage.
Right. And navigate relationships.
Right. And so that's what we enjoy doing. And we like to bring in some of our own experience after being married 27 years and counting. And so we try very hard not to talk about the people themselves, although we talk about behavior that we see and how that impacts what they're trying to do. But we hope that you get a lot out of it. And at the end, we're going to reference some of the feedback that we've gotten. We've gotten a lot of feedback this week from our viewers. Yes, thank you very much. And if you like what you hear, share. Tell your friends, family who might be Married at First Sight fans too about us, and and continue to engage with us because we really enjoy it. So let's get started right away. Rachel and Jose. Well, tonight's episode, the main thing was that they had housewarming parties. To invite friends, their friends over, so that they could start getting to know their family and friends, and so that each spouse could talk to the other's friends to see if there's more information that they could use in helping them understand their spouse better and to move forward. So that was kind of the whole foundation. And so there were a lot of conversations with each other's friends that were, I think, very insightful. And a lot of things came out.
Yeah.
So we can start with Rachel and Jose again. Of course, initially they are, everything is great. She's wonderful. He's wonderful. We've connected. We're having a good time. And then at their party, they shared their differences when it comes to their finances.
And that's the thing about it. All the couples did happen to touch base on serious relationship issues that could potentially, be bumpy roads, and it seems like they were all addressed in some shape, form, or fashion.
So Jose went as far as to bring out his budget and his credit score and how he does things, and sharing their differences. Once again, I'm the big saver. I have the house. I've been thinking about marriage. I'm prepared, and she's been living the single life. The conversation that she had with his stepmom and friends, there was the word that kept being used that I keyed in on that makes me uncomfortable. And that's the word control. And the stepmom says, you have to make sure not to just hand over all of your control to him. And I had a problem with that. I have a problem with that word because the idea of control in a relationship automatically sets it up for contention and conflict. If the man is trying to control the woman, and we live in a culture where that has been perpetuated anyway, with this idea of women submitting to the man and then submitting to her husband as the head of the household. But the way that it's talked about does not reflect what it really means. So that idea of control bothers me.
Yeah, because that's not what it's about.
He is not supposed to be controlling her, and she is not supposed to be controlling him. Right. So it's time to bring in our book, This is a book that I wrote with my parents called Becoming a Professional Lover. And it is a book that gives you 52 tips, one tip per week for a year on ways to build relationships. And it's not entertaining reading. It's good reading. It's easy reading, but it's not entertainment. No, it's work. No. Because
application.
Right. And building good relationships take work.
True.
And practical application. So
marriages take work.
Absolutely. And so there is a tip in this book, week 15, that says treat marriage like a partnership. It's not about control. It's about a partnership. Mm-hmm. And when you have a partnership, people play roles. Mm-hmm. You have roles that you either naturally fall into or you agree to function in your marriage. Yeah. But the bottom line is that men and women are of equal value, both with valuable perspectives that need to be shared and considered in order to have full clarity of any issue. So I want to suggest that you are not looking at a relationship from a control factor, that you're looking at a relationship from a partnership factor, which requires negotiation and compromise on both parts. And therefore, you're not setting yourself up for automatic power struggles and contention, trying to get the control in the relationship.
Yeah. Control is it's an avenue for destruction, really. Because it diminishes one to empower another.
Right.
And that's not a partnership.
Right.
And that's not shared feelings.
Right.
So.
Right. So, Michaela and Zach. Interesting. We got a little bit more insight into him leaving, mm-hmm. and her blow up, which she acknowledged was wrong, which mm-hmm. she took accountability for. Yeah. It was interesting that her friends described her in a way that we haven't seen her.
True.
Because when they were describing to Zach how she is and that her blow-ups are not
her norm.
You were like, who are they talking about? Because so far that's not what we have seen.
Yeah. And I mean, and I understand her being upset, especially just the unknowing. I mean, they already started off, in a fashion that wasn't even designed as the show, mm-hmm. Is set up to be. And to spend the night together, evidently things seemed okay.
And they consummated their marriage. Yeah. And that's a key element for her blowing up, to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once you add that, once you add that emotional connection, intimate connection between people, then when you feel too vulnerable and you get scared, then you are prone to overreaction.
Oh, definitely, because then it becomes about self-preservation.
Right.
And what I saw in the very beginning, when there was like a recap, it showed that their dogs, one dog or the other, I don't know.
Yeah, I know exactly who it belonged to.
But it was an accident occurred on the rug early that morning. He ended up taking the dog to
daycare
or whatever.
Yeah.
And
he indicated that she had let him know that she did not like being awakened.
Right.
So in his mind, he's like, okay, she doesn't like that.
Go ahead, do this, and I'll let her sleep. And again, in his mind, that's how he's thinking. But again, she wakes up. She didn't know what went on. She ignited. But it was a situation where, again, at the housewarming, he said he felt anxiety about
rolling up to the
coming
house
to it. But now understand, just before this, before them actually having the housewarming, she said and texted him or called him and said that she was going to cancel it.
Yeah, and her friends. She told her friends.
Which again gave him, reason to think that this is how she commonly deals with controversy.
Well, and gave him flashbacks of past relationships, and what he dislikes.
Well,
when dealing with, as he called them, loud, boisterous, confrontational women. But here's the thing we talked about,
and I have a phrase for it. I
have
a name.
You
for
said
it.
that he
has conflict phobia.
Right. So she barrels head on into conflict.
She brings it out and throws it out there.
And he abhors conflict.
Yeah, he's scared of conflict. He's scared of conflict.
And with her reaction, I'd be scared of conflict with her.
Well,
now he may have problems with conflict, period. But then conflict with her is scary.
Well, to me, because they are so new, okay, let's find a medium to discuss where we're at, because this has gotten blown out of proportion real quick.
No, but he's ready to cut it, just because it's flashbacks
without discussion. But that's your problem.
Yeah,
that's not her problem. That's your problem. You got to deal with. Okay, this is a different situation. You could flight on the other ones because those were dates, those were whatevers, okay. But this is a marriage. And a marriage as a partnership is a decision to be committed to a relationship. You can't just flight.
And that's him and Johnny in this week's episode are, have already... The flight thing is the issue.
Yeah, Johnny got some issues too.
Yeah, we'll get to those.
Yeah.
So, I asked you whether or not he's allowing his baggage from past relationships to cause him to react out of fear and closing the door on her, because he's acting like he's already checked out.
Yeah.
She apologized. She took accountability for her actions. And yes, it was after the fact. But she owned it. She apologized. She knew she was wrong. She said, I was wrong. And I don't want to do that. I know that hurt your feelings. I don't want to do that. But he's like, yeah, but I too many red flags right now. And is that fair? And that's why I asked you.
I don't think that was fair. I mean, okay. If anything, let's discuss, will we be dealing with conflict like this? I mean, is this how we normally do it? I mean, okay, understanding.
I think he kind of asked that, though.
Well.
Or he alluded to, that's what scares me, is that I don't know if this is how it's going to go all the time.
Well, then let's discuss it.
Yeah.
Let's discuss it. Okay, what happened. And then it got compounded because I didn't quite understand why you still wanted to cancel the housewarming, because again, it's something that we just needed to get past. So I imagine in his head I bring it up because we had not resolved the situation,
and he's scared.
He's
anxiety.
Paranoid. He is,
and all that.
He's petrified. Yeah. He has a phobia, and that's just my term. And I mean, and I say it earnestly, because when you have a phobia, it's like you avoid situations that will bring up certain feelings, and
that's anxiety producing, because you're always walking on eggshells.
Yeah,
it's hard to live with somebody if you're always walking on eggshells.
But there's ways to get around it if you're willing to discuss what it is that's causing you to feel the way you feel. We're not discounting your feelings.
Right.
And again, she acknowledged her feelings, or his feelings. But he just kept bringing up the act. Okay, well, how do we get past the act?
And that was her question. What do I have to do?
Yeah.
And so, you know, his, I won't call it a cop-out, but the way that he ended it was, well, we don't have to get an answer right now. Meanwhile, I'm leaving the apartment because I don't want to stay here. All right. And so, again, inexperience and immaturity talking. But before we move to the next couple, let me say this. I talked a lot about, when we were watching this, her communication style.
Mm-hmm.
And her communication style is that there are like 3 styles, and I forget the third one, but I know the bottom one and I know the top one.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom style is a style where people see communication merely as a tool of self-expression.
Yeah.
That is like the childish
Yeah.
version of communication, which says, I just say what I want to say, how I want to say it, and you just got to deal with it. Because and I know that we know people who are like that. Oh, that's just me.
Me being me.
You just gotta, you just gotta accept it. I don't mince words. But a person who communicates like that is communicating selfishly.
True.
Because you just see it as how you express yourself.
Yeah.
The top style of communication is a communication style that realizes that what you say and how you say it matter.
Yeah.
And that it has an impact.
Right. There's somebody on the other end receiving
who's
what you're saying.
receiving that and impacts them in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And you use it for negotiation and compromise and building relationships. And that's the top level mature style
Mm-hmm.
of communicating. And so right now, she's using that basic that basic communication style.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs some help. And they both need some help.
Yeah, truly.
But she really needs some help in learning how to communicate in a way that's not volatile.
True.
Because no one will ever want to communicate with you that way.
Unless it's somebody that likes communicating that way.
Or who communicates that way themselves.
Yeah.
And then you just got a yell fest in your house. But I mean, I feel him in that I could not deal with living with someone who screamed and yelled.
Yeah.
Because that's not the environment in which I grew up. So
we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
But it's not what we do.
It's not how I grew up, and it's not what we do.
Right.
So, and I'm with him in the fact that I could not live in a relationship where that was frequent.
Yeah. That is the preferred method of communication.
Yeah.
Just get it out.
Myrla and Gil.
Hmm.
Okay. Once again, going through their differences with their friends. She met his mom over the phone. They had a nice conversation, and it's nice that they have a common language.
Yeah.
That they can both share with their families. He loves teasing her about being bougie and her closet, but he's starting to talk about it so much that I was wondering if she's starting to get tired of hearing it. And she addressed it.
Sounds like she's hearing it more than she needs to.
Yeah. Now, she did say, she knows he's teasing and she likes the fact that they can have that banter, but she was also giving off a vibe like he can stop now.
Exactly.
Because he teases her about it, but it's an issue. For him.
Yeah.
But when they talked about their budgets, not their budgets, their money.
Which they shared with each other.
Right, and looked at each other's bank accounts and savings. He had to admit that, her saving account looked good. Yeah, so she's not just a spendthrift as in I spend all my money. No. It's just that she makes enough where she can save a good amount but spend like she wants to spend.
Right. Well, and they both said it. or she said it about both of them. She is money driven. And it's not necessarily in a bad way.
No, I think that could be a bad way.
I'm not saying it couldn't be.
I think that's a fundamental diffence between the two of them that can create issue.
It possibly can, possibly. But again, she's been by herself.
So she has,
as a single person, if you don't have to be concerned about somebody else, you live the way you want. And in her case, she has been money driven. I think that has been her companion.
Well, I know that. I know. Go ahead.
And she just lives the way she wants, but she is not living irresponsibly.
No, she's not living irresponsibly for her.
Fiscally.
For her. As a single person.
Very.
I would say the single person because, again, we talked about last week, your expenses are going to go up when you bring two people together. And you have to consider the other person too. But one of our viewers, felt like her being money driven has a direct connection to how poor she grew up.
True.
That
she wants to make sure she doesn't live that life again.
Right. And so, the materialism, the need to be up at a certain level and to never come down from that.
Yeah.
Because, in talking to Gil's friend and saying, I would never live in his apartment. And I'm not going to. And I'm not changing my lifestyle. And I'm not going to stop spending. I mean, she's doing a lot of definites that, again, are not compromising, not negotiating, it's just like, no, I'm not doing that. And you said an interesting thing when it comes to the intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That, the fact that she could go the whole 8 weeks without kissing him at all. And in talking to their friends, you kind of had an aha moment for yourself about how she's looking at the 8 weeks.
Because I think that she has always been, she's a driven person. So I think she has gotten into this process as a goal. And the 8-week process is, if we can get through it, regardless of what the situation is. I mean, if we can get through the 8 weeks, I'm all in.
So she's using the 8 weeks, you believe.
I believe.
As a vetting process.
Basically, yeah.
And he's using the 8 weeks the way it was designed, which is a building process.
Right.
So there is not going to be any building if I'm vetting. Because I'm using the 8 weeks to make sure that we agree that this is going to last. So she's kind of sabotaging the purpose of the 8 weeks as the show was designed.
Well, in learning one another, do you have to learn each other in a particular way or in a particular manner?
Well, see, vetting and building to me are two different things.
And they are.
Okay.
They are.
The 8 weeks is designed for you to meet, vet, and build.
And I understand.
That's why you're married.
I understand totally.
And their friends, their friends said, it would be different if you're just dating. But you agreed to get married.
Right. You're right.
And part of marriage is building the intimacy and even if it takes time.
And the reason why I say,
but no kiss on the lips for 8 weeks.
But understand, I just look at the whole person. I look at how she's driven, how she's motivated, how she is disciplined.
Yeah.
And she's probably taking it farther than it needs to go.
Probably.
But I believe if she gets past 8 weeks, she is all in.
Well, if he gets to 8 weeks and hadn't had no kiss on the lips, he's all out.
Well,
I'm not sure I can blame him.
No,
he ain't asking for a tongue lashing.
No,
he ain't asking for none of that.
True.
He just said a kiss on. If I can't get a kiss on the lips, then I'm out.
But see, And I look at her demeanor. I look at her, how she handles him, how she is, she has that playful affection, she touches and, you know,
Yeah.
leans on him and,
Yeah.
I mean, so there's definitely something there on her part.
Yes, I agree.
But again, I believe where if that's her philosophy, I think the problem is where they're not communicating, if that is the case. But I could see it. I mean, I could really see that that's the mindset of where she is at. If
But
I can get past this 8 weeks, I am in.
But I kind of agree with Gil when he said that's been her process. So I'm using the same process in this situation, which is totally different from all the other normal situations she's been in.
True.
So I'm defaulting to my habitual process instead of
understanding that this
treating
is a different
this
situation.
one differently
from past.
Yeah.
Because this isn't something you just walk away from if things ain't right.
Right.
Hey, whatever.
Right.
But
so
I don't know. Just it just came to mind. It was an interesting thought.
But it makes sense. It makes sense
in her actions.
Yeah. It's logical based on her behavior.
Mm-hmm. Because again, she's talking about if we want to buy a house, if we want to have family, if we want, and so she's thinking long term,
mm-hmm.
and how when it comes down to finances, which is a bone of contention with a lot of couples,
mm-hmm.
this is what has to happen,
mm-hmm.
and this is how we're going to do it, which immediately lets you know that she makes more money than him.
Yep.
And it's not to say that he has done bad for himself. He's got his 401, he's got his savings, he sends money home to mom and all of that, who is in another country that, missed the wedding and all of that. But,
mm-hmm.
He's responsible. And she can appreciate that. And I believe in this case, he can kind of elevate his lifestyle with her. Not that it's a bad thing. And again, he's not that type of person. He's not going to just spend. But if the surroundings is what she is accustomed to, I mean, are you going to be uncomfortable in surroundings? It's usually just more surroundings.
Yeah.
So,
well, again, we'll see where that whole financial discussion takes them.
In many cases, we call that marrying up. So.
Yeah. But her inflexibility is a problem.
Yeah. But again, she's driven. I don't think she's inflexible because she's bougie. I think, again, being driven. This is where she does bougie. Not. Well, yeah. No, but she has in her mindset that I'm not going back there. And to ensure that I don't go back there, this is where I'm going. So.
Okay. Brett and Ryan, they didn't have a whole lot, of conflict. They were just kind of even keel. They both seemed to sort of be on the same plane,
friend mode
of where they are.
They're in friend mode,
and it's growing.
Yeah, she's getting tingly.
Yeah, so there wasn't a whole lot there. Bao and Johnny, on the other hand, Johnny had a whole lot going on. But Bao, when talking to her friends, pegged him right on the money when she said that he has this checklist that he uses in his head, and that he felt that the experts were going to match him with his perfect woman. And when it turns out that she's not perfect and you see the flaws, then, you start getting nervous, and his wheels started getting shaky, and he feels like that she's messed up because she married him, and he's messed up because he's not sure if he's ready. And she said, I'm not sure if he's ready. And he confirmed, I don't think I'm ready. And it's a little sad because even in him talking to other people, like the guys and stuff, when the guys went out and the girls went out, um, he at first he wasn't really, he was talking about their issues as though it was her problem.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And not the fact that it's his problem.
But I don't know if everybody encounters people, but in this case, they're both highly intelligent individuals, and their vocabulary is very expansive. So to be able to just describe situations in a certain way to appear as if it's okay, I would just like for certain things to happen and yada yada yada, but it's not like you're putting blame on the other individual, but you're not taking responsibility and inserting exactly what's going on with you. And I think he has internal issues about commitment. Personally, I just don't. I mean, because there's nothing about Bao that I think she's a great individual, and she's communicative, and I think she's open and willing and receptive, affirming, and
very affirming.
And I'm hoping that she is realizing that her affirmation of him in certain instances where he evidently needs it will be something that will get him over the hurdle.
That opens him up.
Yeah. And allows him to commit in return to her because she's all in.
Yeah. And his, I'm not really attracted to her personality because she's not my type. I like the fact that Gil and the guys were saying, look, none of these women would be our type if we were to go out and just meet them, the way that we've been meeting women, or if someone was to describe her to me, and I'd be like, no, that's not my type.
Exactly.
And I think because we fans have been questioning the experts, vetting and matching, they inserted a little disclaimer there when Dr. Viviana said, we match couples that we believe have the qualities to build a successful marriage, but in no way are we trying to make perfect matches, because there are no perfect matches. Exactly. But I thought it was interesting that she brought that out as a statement, because they probably have been getting a lot of pushback on
what are you doing?
Yeah, how they're choosing the couples. Now, whether you believe what they're saying or not, that's up to you guys. But I found it interesting. So, Johnny got through this little hurdle, but we'll see how well that goes. And I applaud Bao for having the patience.
Of Job.
Yeah, to handle how he's putting out what he's putting out, or lack thereof. So let's end. You want to bring up some of the comments that we had? So we had asked a question 2 weeks ago about the whole pet thing, and there are a couple of you who said, not being a pet person, you can understand how Myrla felt about being asked to walk the pet and that kind of thing, and I concur that if a person is not comfortable with pets, then that's something that has to be taken slowly as well, and he should go ahead and do what he did before.
I mean, allow her to adapt to being around and getting accustomed to, and because again, she's not a pet person. She didn't have a pet. She wasn't pressed about having it. You were taking care of it, so continue to do what you do. If it ain't broke for you, don't fix it.
Right.
And when it started off, they talked about he slobbered a little bit, and he slobbered on me a little bit, and he almost came into the room, and but he didn't. But again, she's adapting. So think I at one point they were the immediate that ain't working.
Right.
But I gotta.
Well, we can see how they can all work if the people were open to not being driven by their personal expectation of what the person and marriage is supposed to look like. You know, but real quick, because we're kind of long. We also asked a question about baggage and how do you, how do you keep baggage from past relationships from interfering with new ones? And Lydia gave a really quick synopsis of her relationship. She said, I used to sabotage my relationships with behavior that would lead my partner to leave me. And when I met my husband and we had our first argument and I stormed out the room knowing he would leave, and he didn't because he loved her. And that was her beginning, she said, of rewriting the negative behaviors that she had used based on her past experiences. And I thought that was really beautiful because she tried what she normally does. Right.
You do what you know.
It didn't work. And he's like, yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And, and that made her see, ding, oh, he's not the same. He's different. And that opened her up. And then Be Woke talked about how it is good to try to address, baggage from childhood traumas or whatever prior to entering marriage, but marriage offers a unique opportunity to work conflicts out. And that is true. It's unfortunate, though, that it also, as Johnny's finding out, marriage can show you how it's different from what you assumed it would be and how not ready you are. Yeah. Or how who you thought would be the best person for you really is not what you wanted. Or as Gil said, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say how you adapt to situations that under normal circumstances you would avoid, negate, brush off, move away from, and not deal with, whereas it's not going anywhere, so you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you start to do a little internal reflection on, okay, what's the best way to deal with this situation? Because the situation isn't going anywhere, because it's between you and the person who is now in a relationship with you that is not going anywhere. So do you allow this one little, and I say it's little, it could be a big thing, but do you allow that one thing to be a barrier that prevents you from trying to improve upon your relationship, improve upon your personal character, and strengthening not only yourself but your relationship and ultimately your marriage, and moving forward into bigger and better things, basically making you a stronger individual? Do you avoid going to the gym, making yourself stronger, knowing that it's going to be painful, but you're going to come out of it stronger? I mean, there's the sacrifice that you give to get the results that you want.
True.
And you want a strong relationship.
Right.
So you're going to have to confront those situations that are sometimes uncomfortable, that will definitely get you over that hurdle, to know that when it comes, you'll know how to navigate it. You, matter of fact, may even steer totally clear of it and not allow it to become an issue, so that your relationship can be stronger and you put more time into building it.
And you may only be willing to do all of that if you understand that the person you're with, as Gil said, is somebody that you need rather than someone you would typically choose. Yeah. So those are just some reflections that our wonderful viewers gave us feedback-wise. And
thank you.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And on that note, we're going to end it because we've gone about 20 minutes over our normal time, but there's so many issues to talk about.
And hopefully they were interesting enough for you to see it to the end.
Exactly. So thank you. And until we meet again next week, everybody, please stay safe and peace.
Enjoy.